We were sitting outside our small house, where the walls were rough and the evening air carried the smell of dust and warm tea. The sky was turning orange, and the world felt quiet. He was sitting on his old woven bed, slowly stirring his tea, watching the sun disappear behind the trees. Without looking at me, he said softly, "Never just save money." I remember turning toward him, confused. Every person I had ever heard said the opposite. Save money for safety. Save money for the future. Save money for emergencies. But he shook his head gently, as if he had already walked through a truth I had not yet seen. Saving alone, he said, will not change your life. Money must grow. If it sleeps, it dies. That night, under a dim yellow bulb that flickered slightly, he told me his story. His voice was calm, but there was something heavy inside it, something that came from years of learning the hard way. When he was young, he was known as the man who dreamed too much. He had big plans, big promises, big ideas. He would say, "One day I will open a shop," or "One day I will own animals," or "One day I will become successful." He believed those words. He felt them deeply. Every afternoon, he would lie on a woven bed under a large tree near the road. He watched people walk past. He watched carts roll by. He imagined a better future. In his mind, he was already successful. In his mind, life had already changed. But dreaming is not building. At first, people laughed at him. They teased him, calling him the man of tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. Slowly, laughter turned into silence. And silence turned into pity. His wife never complained loudly, but her eyes carried the weight of reality. She woke up before sunrise. She prepared simple meals. She worked quietly, doing whatever small tasks she could to keep the home running. One evening, as she was kneading dough with tired hands, she said softly, "Dreams are beautiful, but they cannot feed a family." He nodded. He always nodded. But nodding is not action. Time passed. Money became less. Food became simpler. Some days there was only one meal. Some nights they pretended they were not hungry. Then one night changed everything. His little grandson walked toward him. The boy was barefoot, his clothes slightly torn, his face thinner than it should have been. He stood quietly for a moment, then asked in a soft voice, "Grandpa, is there something to eat?" The cupboard was open. It was empty. No flour, no rice, no vegetables, nothing. The boy tried to smile as if it did not matter, but his eyes betrayed him. They were full of hope, and that hope had nowhere to land. That night, my grandfather did not sleep. He stared at the ceiling while the world around him rested. For the first time in his life, his dreams felt heavy. They felt useless. He realized something painful. Imagination cannot fill an empty stomach. Before sunrise, while the air was still cool and the sky was dark blue, he stood up quietly. No speeches, no promises, just movement. He walked out to find work. The sun that day felt harsher than ever. The ground was dry and hard. His hands were not used to labor. But he worked. He carried heavy loads. He bent his back for hours. Sweat covered his face. His muscles burned. When he came home that evening with a few small notes in his hand, he felt something new. It was not pride exactly. It was relief. "It is not much," he told his family, "but it is earned." But money earned is not always money kept. The little he brought disappeared quickly. Food, small bills, medicines, repairs. The coins came, and they went. One afternoon he heard someone say, "If you save money, you are safe." Those words stayed with him. Safety sounded good. Safety sounded stable. That night he found a glass jar. It had once been used for pickles. He cleaned it carefully and placed it under his bed. Every week, he dropped a few coins inside. The sound was small but satisfying. Clink, clink. The sound made him feel hopeful. When his grandson found the jar and asked what it was, he smiled and said, "This is our tomorrow." They stopped buying small comforts. He wore the same clothes longer. They reduced their portions. Every coin mattered. Slowly, the jar began to fill. It became heavier in his hands. For the first time, he felt secure. He believed he was preparing wisely. He believed he had finally understood life. When the jar was full, he carried it to the market with careful steps. He poured the coins onto the counter and asked for 2 large sacks of grain. The shopkeeper counted the money slowly. Then he looked up and said calmly, "Prices have gone up. This will only buy 1." The words felt like a slap. All those months of sacrifice, all that hunger, all that discipline, and still, not enough. He walked home slowly that day. The noise of people around him felt distant. For the first time, he questioned everything he thought he understood. That evening, he sat outside quietly as the sun disappeared. He watched his neighbors. One was selling milk, another was selling vegetables. Someone else was carrying a basket of eggs. They were not wealthy, but they were steady. They were not afraid. And then a small idea appeared in his mind. What if we buy a few hens? It was not a grand dream. It was not a big plan. It was small, almost simple. But small ideas can change everything. This time, he did not wait. He did not say, "One day." He took the money he had saved and used it. He bought a few thin hens. People laughed again. They always did. But something inside him had changed. Their laughter no longer stopped him. Every morning he fed them. He cleaned their space. He protected them. The first week passed with nothing. The second week brought 1 egg. He held it in his hand longer than necessary. It felt different from the coins in the jar. It felt alive. They ate that egg. Soon there were more. They sold some. With that money, he bought more feed. Then another hen. Then another. Slowly, very slowly, something began to grow. This time money did not disappear. It multiplied. It worked. It returned. He began writing everything in a small notebook. Eggs sold, money earned, expenses made. He started thinking differently. He was no longer just earning. He was building. One evening, holding an egg in his hand, he told his grandson, "Saving money is like holding water in your hand. It slowly slips away. But when you use money to create something, it begins to flow back to you." His eyes were softer now. "I was never poor because I had no money," he said quietly. "I was poor because I delayed action. I waited for perfect days. I waited for big opportunities. I should have started small." Years passed. The hens became many. Then he added other small sources of income. Nothing dramatic, nothing magical, just steady growth, step by step. And until his last days, sitting in the same place where he once dreamed without action, he repeated the same sentence. Never just save money. Make it grow. Saving feels safe. It feels responsible. But growth creates freedom. Growth creates strength. Growth creates options. He learned that money sleeping in a jar slowly loses its power. But money planted like a seed can turn into something living. And every time I remember his wrinkled face, his tired hands, and the calm wisdom in his voice, I understand what he truly meant. Do not just protect your money. Give it purpose. Give it movement. Let it work. Because even the smallest beginning can become something bigger than you ever imagined. Moral: true wealth is not in what you keep safe, but in what you grow with patience, courage, and wisdom.